We have cried, we have laughed, we have been bruised, we've been hurt, but ijob.
Ijob is black. Ijob. Welcome, Sylvester Chauke. Welcome to the CMO Corner.
It's good to be here.
I'm super excited to have you here. It's been a long time. I've been planning to chat to you.
Yeah.
Diaries and things just didn't happen. But now we are here. So thank you. And thank you to everyone and the team in ICCO walking us to this beautiful office.
Thank you.
It's good to see.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a chat amongst friends where we talk about the things we love and the thing we love, which is marketing.
Yeah. For our sins, right?
Hey, for our sins, for our sins. So, my first question, I'll start differently. I haven't done this in a long time, where I'd ask random questions just to have an icebreaker.
Yeah.
And then we get into all the stuff we want to chat about. So, I've got 5 questions, actually. Which is why I don't send you a preview, so you don't prep at all. The first one is your latest read, or maybe actually, let me rephrase it, your favorite read of all time. I know you are like avid reader. Yeah,
I am. It's very difficult. I have amazing reads that I've enjoyed in the last couple of years. But I think maybe for now, one that really has been a wonderful conversation that I've had with myself was The Covenant of Water.
Okay.
By Abraham Verghese.
Yeah.
It is a beautifully written piece of work.
Yeah.
And not only the story, but the way that he writes and the way that he narrates a story that took me to this most amazing spaces in India and Ireland.
Yeah.
And I was completely mesmerized, but inspired by just the craft of writing and the ability to tell a story like that. It's definitely one that I, at the moment, have really appreciated.
Do you write much?
I do. I actually write a lot. Yeah,
Is it?
I enjoy it. I love writing. I write quite a lot on a weekly basis for a lot of people. Whether it is conversations that people need to have. I do write for some keynotes, speeches for key individuals around the continent. Yeah, I love writing.
You know what the youth call the ghost writer, basically.
Yeah, you could call me that.
Okay, cool. We thank you for your service. Okay, second question. What are you playing in your most created playlist currently?
Currently, actually, 2 people that I've loved, for a long time.
Yeah.
But Tanu Samazwai's latest installment is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And the more I listen to it, the more I fall in love with it. The melody, the lyric, the essence of it is just absolutely beautiful. And I think she's also has surprised me a lot. It's like every single time she sort of pushes herself into a different space.
Yeah.
You get a sense that it's a new, or it's a reincarnation of a different King Ta.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And then Somi
Somi's nice.
Absolutely.
Somi's
and
nice.
I think, in fact, Apple Music did a summary now. They're starting to do every month. They can do a summary of what you've listened to in the last month, and they were my 2 most listened to artists for the whole of the month. So let's see. Love them.
Okay, cool. Your favorite artist as in fine art?
Fine art. Oh my God, that's difficult.
Yeah. But and you've got beautiful taste, by the way.
I'd have to say Bambo Sibiya would be my ultimate. I love Bambo Sibiya's work. Every single time I look at it, it just takes me to an amazing space. And I think that's what art, good art does. I love his work. I love his thinking around art, and also his subject matter being the people of our country, people of our continent, and how he beautifully paints them. I love Bambo.
Okay, and then the last one. The best piece of work, your opinion, that has come out of DNA Brand Architects.
DNA Brand Architects. Sure, there's a...
It'll be difficult, right?
It's going to be very difficult, and so you're going to get me into a lot of trouble with my team here, because I'd say I think the work that we did for Testic with Tiger Brands was quite special for me because it's a commodity brand, a product. It's a rice brand, but how do you make it feel like it is part of the culture of South Africa?
Yeah.
And I thought that the work we did on that was quite special, and not only did it work, but it also allowed the brand to get much more closer to South Africa in the way it expresses itself. And I was educated by that as well, because I just thought, because initially you think these kind of brands are very stock standard and boring, but we were able to take it to spaces and areas it's never been before. And I've loved that campaign for its authenticity and its ability to connect with people.
Lovely. I love that campaign as well. It was amazing work, and at the time I was still at Tiger Brands.
Amazing.
Great work.
I did well. Won some internal awards for you guys as well, and some external awards. So it
was brilliant.
Great team.
Well done. Okay, cool. Let's kick off now. I hear that you are one of 8 children at home. Correct me if I'm wrong.
7.
7. Okay,
yes,
1 of 7.
1 of 7.
Okay. Paint a picture for me growing up how that was like. How was a family table like?
Yeah. So there was obviously, I think I am sort of like in the middle, because my mom was married before meeting my dad.
Yeah.
So I had automatically, when I was born, I had 3 sisters who were sort of older than me.
Yes.
And so I was born, and then my brother, and then my 2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
So when we were younger, I sort of grew up understanding us as a family as sort of one big unit. It wasn't a thing. And it's only really when I was older, I think I got to appreciate the dynamics of the family. So we were very much of an interesting family in the way that my older sisters, had their dads, and I had my dad, and I was just trying to kind of figure out how to manage it as a young person. It was quite tricky, and in fact, I remember feeling a little bit betrayed.
Is it?
Yes, because I thought, so you've got another, so you're not, my dad's child, but you got your own dad, and so and then she would go to her dad, and it was always very very strange. But I have absolutely loved growing up in that environment, because you get schooled literally about tolerance, acceptance, and the ability to get on with people and different kinds of people. And as a family, that was something that we did well, and we continue to do well.
If you reflect on the family upbringing, what do you think are some of the things you can reflect on now and say, for me to be who I am today, this is the gift my parents and my siblings actually gave me, and that's how I show up in what I do?
Yeah, it's actually a very important part of who I am. It's just the incredible investment that I got from my parents, and I see my dad in me sometimes. I see my mom in me sometimes. I see my older sisters in me sometimes. I see my younger siblings in me sometimes, because they've really influenced me in the way that I do show up. And the one thing that I must say, the biggest takeaway for me, is the acceptance and tolerance that I got to experience from my family. How they never wanted to change me. How when I was struggling with my sexuality and who I wanted to be in the world, and I was having these internal stresses and issues myself, and they kind of were like, "You are awesome, we love you." And that was something that really gave me so much confidence, so that when I stepped out of home, I knew that I had a really good base of love and acceptance, which has gone a long way in the way I show up in the world today, and how confident I feel about where I belong in this world. So that was something that was quite special, and I really do cherish that.
And Sty, it's so interesting you say that. How I receive what you're saying is, and how I've defined it, is you're a maverick. And I say this because in my view, I look at mavericks as square pegs in round holes.
Yes.
Yeah, And I'm wondering, sitting here with you now, if one, do you view yourself in that way now? And maybe even growing up, did you think, or are you conscious of it? Like, you kind of speak about being different and stuff like that. Were you conscious about it? Because now it almost seems like the gift, right? It's like, I'm doing okay.
I've appreciated as a grew older.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I knew that I was different, and I actually appreciated that, funny enough. Even though maybe in my preteens, I actually didn't want to be that different. I just wanted to kind of blend in with everybody. But actually, interestingly, people out there are like a mirror to you as well. So as you walk and people pick up things, whether it was the teacher at school, my dance class teacher, my friends, people sort of play back certain things that you may not be aware of, and they become the thing that you become very aware of. And over time, I've come to realize that, yes, maybe my difference and my sort of lack of just falling and following the norm has been a lot about maybe hearing that a lot about that I do that without even thinking about it. Do you know what I mean? So that was always like a thing I had to always question. Sometimes, even now, I go, do I like this because I like it, or did I just sort of assume it, or do I really enjoy this, or for real, or is it because people are saying that I'm good at it, then I enjoy it? So I've had to question myself a lot about why I do things and if I really am connected to the things that I'm doing.
Interesting. Okay, so you start your career at agency, you then move into client side, and then you birth your own agency. Was that always like part of the plan? Was it deliberate? It seemed very calculated to me. Like going through your CV, I'm like, no man, Sly had a plan, and he was executing it. They just didn't know.
In hindsight, it may look like it was a plan, but there wasn't. I knew that I was going to be in advertising, and for sure, because I think that from when I was very young, I knew that this is what I wanted to do in my career. And the going to client bit, I didn't see that happen so soon, actually. And I was very surprised by it. So it came through, and there was an opportunity for me to join Nando's, and I hadn't thought about it. In fact, I felt like it was a little bit of a betrayal of what I really love the most, which is the advertising bit, the communications aspects of it. And I think the more I got closer to the opportunity and seeing what it was going to be, it gave me an opportunity to do both. So I could still be an advertising kind of guy, but in a sort of corporate environment.
Got you.
And then utilizing that because they really wanted more of that advertising guy actually in the group. So that was perfect for me. Then, after many years, of course, Nando's and I went to MTV, but then the entrepreneurial bit, it sort of happened years later when I realized, oh, I could do this. And in fact, it was maybe more of a frustration. Yes, of everywhere I walk around, every single agency one interacts with as a client, you don't ever meet and work with agencies who understand your people the way you think they should. So it was a big frustration for me. And at that time, particularly, there weren't, major black-owned advertising agencies or agencies where you walk in and you see majority black people. It was the other way around. And even if you are a person of color, it's actually only a handful of you who are really making decisions within those companies. So it was something I realized that you could complain about it, or you could maybe start something that could grow into something that maybe has a semblance of what you would like to see.
So, which is beautiful. I love that. Unfortunately, it came out of frustration, yes. But because my next question was going to be, did you see something in the industry like there was a gap in for us to solve, which you've just answered now?
Yes, there was, still is.
I was going to go there now. What is your take on what is currently happening now?
Now, I think you just have to look at the work. You just have to look at the creative work that is going out. I mean, there are some unicorns, some really good work coming out of different brands in the country, and you see brands do work that you think, they get our people, they understand us, they know, they really inherently are built from us. But I think that we haven't progressed in the way that I would like. There's still a lot of second guessing what the audience is looking for and what the audience appreciates and loves. And there's still a Western influence on how consumers need to see brands, interact with brands, and engage with brands. And I'm not sure if our African nuance is getting better.
So, yeah, it's actually debatable. And the piece of work that Brand Africa does in the top 100 list, which I think you're very close to. So when we work on that, it's crazy to see that every year the number actually tanks. I think currently the African brands that sit in the top 100 are possibly 14%, if not 17. I could be wiring my numbers around, which is low. And it's not growing.
For the continent.
For the
absolutely,
continent,
yes.
right? And I know you're passionate about African brands and the continent. What do you think is the missing piece?
I think the missing piece is that most of our own brands aren't necessarily, fighting and amplifying their brands the way that a lot of the Western brands are. So on the top 100 African brands from the same study also shows that most Africans also believe that a lot of these international brands are African.
Yes,
because
true.
they think that
True.
Coca-Cola is Africa. They think that Nike is from, it's actually quite scary how many Africans believe that brands are African when they're actually not.
Yeah.
So there is an opportunity for sure in how we are also rallying behind our brands, and of course we need decades and decades of that support to get to that level that a Nike or a Coca-Cola can get to, because obviously for 125 years Coca-Cola has been pushing that and they've been driving that. So there's been a concerted effort and an intentional effort in being able to do that. For us though, local African brands, we don't have even a smidgen of the support and push behind the brands, whether it's investment to elevate these brands and also to make a lot of effort in amplifying them outside of the continent so that they also become known as brands that are coming out of the continent.
Tricky. And do you think there's a solve for that, or it's just the lay of the land currently? It's how the economy is doing, it's the funds we have, and there's nothing much we can do?
I think there is a solve. I think the solve is really, and which is one of my passions, is just how do we ensure that brands, African brands, grow? Because I think the more they grow, the more they become more impactful, and then the more they can invest in themselves to become even better. And there's also has to be an orientation of being committed to also wanting to take over a lot of the other markets outside of the continent as well, because that's how a lot of the global brands are growing out of their own markets, whether it's from a European market into Africa to expand.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's enough. There hasn't been. I think at least research has proven that there hasn't been South African brands. Even some of the biggest brands that we have currently are not on the top 50 biggest brands in the world. They're not, we don't even make it to that level. Even every single brand that is currently on the continent or big corporations here are a smidgen in the world. We have an opportunity to change that. When will it happen?
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Are you on a dead set mission as DNA to achieve that?
Just certainly to support it, certainly to use what we can and the skills that we have to amplify where we can. So it's wonderful to see brands like Batu, for an example, grow and amplify and open other markets, but also like FMCG brands that are great in South Africa that are not available in the rest of the continent or the rest of the world. It's strange, and yet a lot of brands that are coming out of the other parts of the world into our continent that we so love to support. It's a mindset change that needs to happen for Africans in general about our ability to also rally behind the brands that come from our own continents, whether it's a toothpaste or a cool drink or a sneaker shoe. There
goes the passion. I feel it.
Okay.
Cool. So maybe let's take a step back to the agency days when you spent.
Yes.
Ogilvy,
DDB,
I believe DDB,
FCB.
You spent a lot of time there.
Loved.
How was that experience like for you?
Oh, that was amazing. When I walked into FCB for the first time, I remember thinking, oh my God, I've arrived. This is exactly what I want to do, where I want to be, where I want to work. So FCB became and they gave me an amazing foundation of what the advertising job is and what advertising can do to the world. And it was Utatu Nkomo, who was the chairperson of FCB at the time, who said to me, You know, we are such a small group of people, but we can influence the world, we can influence the country, we can influence the way people think. And ever since then, I remember thinking, as a foundation, FCB just like really laid it out. You know, they were like, this is what we need to do. And I absolutely owe a lot of what I'm about and what I do to FCB as a foundation. Then I moved to Ogilvy, and Ogilvy was amazing because Ogilvy taught me to love creativity even more. So the job of creativity and what it can do to really drive what people think about products and services, and Ogilvy are the best at that. It's just the ability to just make a product look amazing and be amazing in the market. Then I went to DDB, and DDB was just incredible in the way that it made me fall in love with the problems that we have to solve as an industry, which was quite strange. Because Glenn Lomas at the time as a CEO, and Emmett O'Hanlon, who was a strategy head at the time, they were incredible in how they made me realize just how much I love to solve these problems. So problems coming to an agency are incredible opportunities, right? Because that's where you get to show your mettle. And I absolutely think that we have an amazing industry, amazing agencies in South Africa that do great work in amplifying brands, and it's such an honor to be part of that.
And when you go to client side, how was that? Because you didn't spend much time there as well.
Well, it was Nando's and MTV. So I think it's, in my world, it was a long time because it's a long time to. I mean, years can fly in a client. Okay, it's quite something. But I think I got to appreciate what the advertising industry does do for clients. So that was brilliant for me, because coming from it, then the way that I engaged with it was just so much more profound. It was wonderful because I understand that advertising process or the advertising job to be done. And so when I look at it from a client perspective, when I brief it into an agency, there's such an ease. And I had great relationships with Black River FC, who I worked with, and we did amazing work with them at the time as an example. And our ability to just get to do the work that we believe would take the brand to the next level. Yeah.
And do you think that has helped DNA as well?
Without a shadow of a doubt, because there is a level of understanding of the challenges that a client has. And no matter how many times we can complain as agencies about what's not working from our point of view, but there's also an appreciation for how do we make that process for them that much easier, because there is a job to be done. So we know when we walk into a client, we know the challenges that they do have to contend with. And how do we help them manage those challenges much more swiftly.
Nice. So if you reflect, this is 13 years I saw the other
13.
day. Congratulations.
It's a teenager now. Isn't that cool?
They're acting up now. They're acting up, but they're grown. You can have full-blown conversations.
You know
it's
what?
nice. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Have you sat down to reflect? And I had a previous conversation with Smooth Tole from The Odd Number.
Yes, amazing.
And I think they're celebrating 10 years.
Amazing.
It's beautiful to see.
And they've done incredibly well in 10 years. It's just amazing to see.
So, and I was telling the same thing. So I'll tell you the same thing about your business. It's amazing to see that you've lasted 13 years. It's like it gives me goosebumps. Like just to see someone that looks like me that is doing it and doing it not to tick a box, but has excellence embedded in how they do it.
Thank you.
Have you sat down to reflect on your 13 years?
It's impossible not to, quite often. And I think every time, whether I'm switching off the lights, I'm leaving the office, the last one to leave on that day, I reflect on that. I walk around, see the desks, see numbers of people, see the work that we're doing, see what's on the walls. But more importantly, just seeing people grow and utilizing this business for that step to grow. And even people that leave the business to go to do even bigger and better things out there. It's such a privilege. It really is. It's such a huge privilege for me to be part of that. And to wake up every day in pursuit and in support of that vision is an honor for me.
So in your reflection, Do you have any regrets?
That's always a very tricky question when someone asks, do you have any regrets? I think where I am now is it's a beautiful end point to where I am now, right? Of what has happened for me to be here.
Yeah.
And hindsight is a beautiful thing because it allows you to look back and go, even the things that I definitely did regret when they were happening,
Yes.
actually, they have really helped me to look at things differently, to look at my world slightly differently as well. So I remember this one example where I, DNA was 5 years in, and a really awesome all-star, we call our staff all-stars here,
lovely.
walked into my office with a letter of resignation, and I was like, oh my God, crushed.
Yeah.
It was maybe the first time that was happening, and I just wasn't ready for it. Arrived home, I remember I was tossing and turning, and I thought, oh my God, why? Did I do something wrong? Is the space not really good for the person? You really entrepreneurs internalizing this, and is thinking, oh my God, did I fail at being able to kind of keep this all-star? And actually, you have to learn that actually as part of a business, you are going to have to shed quite often in your lifespan, right? And when it was happening then, I regretted how I felt. I regretted the time I wasted thinking about it being a bad thing, or how much I invested in it as something that was quite bad. But now I think it was so good for me because I need to also bruise and hurt and cry and learn and suffer because what is coming will require me to have had that experience. And that's something that I've appreciated that much more. So when I'm going through a difficult time at the office in business, I go, this is going to be something I'm going to need for my backpack when I'm going to be going through something that needs me to have this experience. So that helps me.
And that's beautiful. And I've got a counter question to that. The reason I asked that was the other side to it, right? When you are reflecting now, in the process of reflecting again, are there things where you say, you know what, I'm glad this happened and I'm grateful and this has contributed to us lasting 13 years?
Are you kidding me? I mean, everything.
Yeah.
I have a lot of those moments. I just go, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that conversation. Thank you for that rebuke.
Yeah.
Thank you for that no.
Yeah.
Thank you for pushing through, and even when we knew that it is not going to work, but we still pushed through. There are hundreds of hours that we lost. Or wasted.
Yes.
But they were not wasted.
Yeah.
They were not wasted. They were important. And so I think now, particularly in this big age now, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. That happened. Thank you, that happened. Because it really has helped me to be a better leader.
You've mentioned your process of leaving and how you were bitter. But did you then sit down, and I watched an interview where you like, one day I was the director at MTV and then I left, the next day. Yeah. But in that process, going through that phase, did you like plan and say, okay, you know what? My first thing is I need to just have top 5 all-stars. And then I'll do this and I'll structure it like this, and then we'll move on to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. Or you kind of trusted the process?
I would say that there was a mix of both, because obviously you plan, and then everyone plans for the best, right? You plan, I'm going to need to just look for a client and of course do work for them, hopefully eventually get people, etc. But I think there was a divine hand. I have to be honest about the fact that it wasn't planned meticulously, that every single move was exactly what I need to do. But I mean, there were fundamentals around, well, if you want to have an agency, you're going to have clients. And if you're going to have clients, you got to do work for them. You're going to work for them, you need people to do the work. If you've got people, you need a space for them to sit. And then if you've got people, you need to have processes in place to help you build the business, etc. So I think that was the obvious stuff. But it was a mix of, I always say I bungee jumped straight into it, because it was like, just do it, You know what actually helped me the most, I have to say, is I knew that if it fails, I'll get another job.
Did you know that, or you were like
that was helpful?
Yeah. Or you trusted
I will
it,
never not have work.
Yeah.
I will go and apply for a job somewhere else.
Yeah.
And work there. But I can't say I can't not do it because I'm scared I might not have a job, you see. So that always helped me to go, okay, if this doesn't work, I'll apply and become a marketing person somewhere.
You know, so many people have said that. And I've always wondered, but that's like so much trust. You need to trust yourself so much, right?
I think it also has a lot to do with where you've worked.
Yes.
And more importantly, who you've worked for. I saw that in action.
True. That's true.
I saw that in action, what you get taught, what you learn from people. Alex Okosi was my boss at MTV Networks Africa. He chiseled me to shape, to get me to a point where I'm confident about what I can deliver and what I can't deliver. I know what I can do. Paul Appleton, Teresa Modo, Julian Bryant at Nando's, Robbie Brosen.
Yes.
They propped me up. They supported me, and they gave me the confidence to know what I can deliver and what I'm, what I'm capable of. And of course, the different agencies that I worked for also reminded me and showed me what I can do. So eventually, you get to a point where you trust your ability to solve. And what was important for me also was the ability to be consistent in that as well. Because you have to work in 5 different spaces and do the impact work in those spaces to know that you can do it.
True.
You won't be able to do it if you just did it once and then you haven't been able to repeat it somewhere else.
You're right.
But the more you repeat it in different spaces and environments, the more confident you know, so it's actually, I'm the source. So I'll go to the other space and add that source there. So that helped. Yeah.
Cool. Earlier on, you mentioned leadership, which is the point I wanted to circle back to. You, and I want to quote you, say to be a leader or a good leader, I added good, but you said to be a leader, I say to be a good leader.
But leaders must be good.
Of course, right? You're actually right. There you go. To be a good leader, you need to be a good follower.
Yeah.
My question to you is, who or what have you followed? Because I think you're a good leader. Who or what have you followed that has contributed to making you the kind of leader that you are today?
Oh, that's such an awesome question, because it gives me an opportunity to, I think, also just reflect back on the people that I follow. Not have followed, but I follow. Still today, right? I'm very fortunate because in the work that I do, I then get to work with really great businesses. And in those great businesses are run by great people. Or at least, you want that to be the case, right? And I have a list of amazing people that I look at and I just think, I just love how you do that, or I love how you manage that. But more importantly, how do I help you? How do I support you in getting to that? So whether it's Alex Okosi, who I have followed, or follow his counsel, his leadership, his direction. Paul Appleton, also from Nando's, who I follow the way he thinks, the way he does things, and you learn from that, and you do that. And then also in my client base currently, where I have clients that I look at, I follow them, I follow how they work. Gugu Mtembu at Telkom. I look at that and I just think, I just love the way she thinks and the way she does things. Dominic Suela at World. I just love how he just manages to run this business in this particular way, in this way. And Gugu Sepamla, who I just love how she thinks and moves. So there are so many people and individuals that I follow even today. And as a leader, I think good leaders always know and they always can smell a good leader in front of them, and they always want to follow someone who does great.
Great stuff. You are said to have an obsession for hypermarket aisles and the vibrant buzz of high streets.
Yes.
What's up with that obsession?
What's up with that? What's up with that obsession? I think it started maybe when I was just under 10 years. I grew up, at the time I was in Chawela in Soweto. And every Tuesday, Caxton will deliver the the magazine or the newspaper that had all the tabloids or the tabs inside of all the different shops that had specials and sales. So I would then pick those up, and I would always be paging through, and I would pick up a calculator, and I would say, what do I need at Macro? Then I would just sort of choose what I'm buying there, and then I'll do the same thing for Ginn and Richards. What I'm buying there, and I just completely got obsessed with things I like that I don't have or that I wish to have or whatever. So that started, as a young person, and then as I grew older, it sort of morphed into an appreciation for how people look at stuff and see things. So I worked at Macro when I was at varsity, and I worked at Game. I used to sell Bauer pots, and I worked for Very Rock. And so I was quite obsessed with when people are walking on the aisle, and what they're looking for. And of course, you want to be able to bring them to buy the things that you want to sell and bring them over to you. So there's that almost song and dance that happens in sales and on the aisles that I have absolutely enjoyed. I think it's just the thing about people and the psychology of people, how they think, how they buy, what they buy. It's something that I've absolutely appreciated. And now when I go to Macro, it's like I'm just watching what people are buying. I want to see which aisles are busy. I want to see what's empty on the aisles. What are people buying? It's cool.
And tell me, do you see that come across in your work, and do you encourage the same amount of evaluation and assessment from your own team currently? Because I would imagine there's like psychology in studying people and how they behave, and coming up with the concept that you come up with, to then take back to the client.
Absolutely. I think great marketers are marketers that are very embedded in their communities and in the markets that they work within. And so part of that requires you to be incredibly connected to it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the aisle. But it can also be, like I go to Brahm, and I love going to sit and have a drink and look at what people are doing, and what people are drinking, and what people are wearing, and et cetera, et cetera. What music they're listening to. I think because it then informs the context in which you are creating the work. I think it's important, and I encourage it completely here. Luckily, our bunch here of All Stars are very much in that game, because it's the stuff they love. Part of our onboarding and interview process requires that we understand how you spend your time and what you do, because it also gives us a sense of the kind of person that you are in the world related to the role.
That's interesting. And you know why I say this? Some of your all-stars I know, not personally, but I've seen them. You know, people that have like side hustles and are doing amazing outside of the work, and then they also come here, I think, full, at least I'm assuming, full, and want to contribute the same level of creativity to clients' work. Is that like a culture you embrace here? Is it a deliberate thing?
Yes. It is deliberate and it's intentional. And I think because I also used to put myself in their shoes, right? Because you have to think about it. You are a 26-year-old with an incredible future ahead of you. Part of that, it requires you to experiment, learn new things. But because I work at a particular job doesn't mean I don't have passion for art and theater and creativity and content creation. Yes, the side hustle doesn't necessarily clash with the job that you have to do 100%. Here. But actually, most of the time, it enhances what you do here. Because whether you are a thespian or an artist, who wants to express something, a content creator, that should make this job that much more enriching, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
So thankfully we are aware of that, and we are grateful that we have the ability to make that happen.
That's good. Now, Sly, I did mention offline that I've got a couple of surprises. So
I love surprises.
Do you really?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's see how you like the surprise. I got a message. I try by all means to like prep for my guests.
Yeah.
And my WhatsApps are actually coming in while I talk here. So this is like a conversation. I always tell people I'm not like a formal interview. It's not ENCA where things must be proper and messages can't come in. So I've got a message I'm going to play for you. It's quite long, but I think it should be fine.
Okay.
And I want you, at the end, I want you to tell me how it feels. And then secondly, if you know who it comes from. I'm not sure if they mentioned their name, but anyway, just bear with me here. So what the guys are gonna do, they're gonna plug the clip after.
Okay, good, yeah.
For better audio.
Hey, Tabani, it's Vincent. Very exciting to find out you're trotting to leadership in this format. There are a number of moments, obviously, I think in the last 13 years. I think one of the ones that I can truly think about is the first time I started, I just come from freelancing and working with
That's important.
Marang, and I was leaving the government. And he made a promise, to say, come join me on a journey. The biggest boardrooms in South African corporates, I'll open them for you. 15 years later, he has not faltered in that regard. There's been countless of just going into battle, in corporate South Africa, winning business. I remember the highlight, when we won Telkom, it still rings true. We were getting off a plane, and after really have not had much success with that lack of trying, because they were just rationalizing their business in one of the big telcos that we had been working with for a while. And so the Telkom breakthrough really affirmed us as an agency, but also affirmed that element of the biggest boardrooms in South Africa will be delivering fresh thinking in the boardroom. And the other was in our first, I think, major trip. We were getting an award in Cannes, and we got to go to Monaco. And just when you sit on top of, between Nice and Monaco, when you can overlook the entire sort of like country or city. Just that moment, he was just quite emotional. Just seeing that
I
this
cried.
baby is getting us to truly be a global player and play in those spaces. There's been countless number of them, but I think the element of the journey hasn't changed. I think one of the greatest lessons to learn was as we grow, one from a leadership perspective, you need broad shoulders, and I think broad shoulders had come in after one of his sabbaticals in December, somewhere in Asia. And I think that was the word of the year, just to say, as a leader, he needed broad shoulders. And I think this might have been our 5 or 6 year mark when he was coming back. I think that level of understanding and sobriety to say, the business to thrive, he as a leader would have to carry a lot much, but he needed a bigger for the shoulders. But I think also Sylvester's always been an incredible polymath, from a thinker who's a visionary, but he's also excited about the craft and the beautifulness of creativity and ideas, really soaring. And I think that's where Stand Against Man comes from, where everyone's got an idea. And he challenges me year after year. The one year I was doing an annual New Year's resolution. It's like, oh, everyone does these, but what's going to make you stand out is that everyone has got the same starting point, but the momentum, can you maintain it until the end of the year? So the idea there being, yes, you can be brilliant, and yes, you can be great, but it's not a once-off thing that you offshoot. Excellence is something that you have to will drive and pursue with all its might all the time, because that's what the language of excellence, or rather the DNA of excellence, is. It's not just the once off. You are not just as good as your last project. You are as good as the body of work you can deliver over time consistently. And he's proven to do that. So, yeah, a really joy. I think for me, being led, being inspired, um, there's always something that I know I'm gonna walk away with when I leave a conversation with him. And this has always been consistent from the many days when we were still pitching at ABNB, ABNBev rather, to now where we are, Nedbank being the latest one. Yeah, the bill has never left the room.
It's amazing.
How does that feel? Thank you, Vinny.
I know, that was amazing. Probably one of the most interesting things for me, and this gets me quite emotional, and I have to kind of hold it together. When you start something, then people come to it. Then clients come to it. And then we are able to sustain ourselves 13 years in. But the people that are with you for longest of time, supporting this vision, is probably one of the most humbling things, because you think people have chosen to spend their 5 years. I mean, we had 10 All-Stars celebrating 5 years here in December. And we have a couple of them are celebrating 8 years. They've been here for 7 years, 9 years. It's just incredible, of the 13 years. So that says a lot about the commitment, but also for me, it's so humbling. Because you think they choose this agency versus many others, but we should be doing something right. And I think that's encouraging, but it's so humbling. Because I know what it would take for me to just go and join someone. But I'm touched, and Vincent. I mean, he mentions those two moments, and there are key moments for us where I just think, wow, look at this. And we have cried, we have laughed, we have been bruised, we've been hurt. But ijob. That feels amazing. It's like a hug. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I respect people's time. I've got tons of other things I would have loved to ask, but congratulations on the journey. Congratulations on Nedbank, which is the most recent one.
Amazing, yeah.
I would have loved to know the journey behind that. We'll chat about that some other time. I remember you saying it was an intense pitching process. So I think there's lessons around that for everyone else that's watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, congratulations, and continue shining, man.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this conversation, and thank you for this platform. It's so important for people to get into the heads of the hearts and minds of our people that sort of almost are looking after this industry. And it can only be great if we also contribute to it. And so such an honor to finally get to sit with you. So thank you.
Thank you. It's all right.